It was just another ordinary evening, the kind where the quiet hum of the neighborhood was a lullaby, and the most exciting thing on the horizon was my takeout order. But that night, everything changed. A simple knock on my door shattered my peace, and I knew instantly something wasn't right. Standing there was my HOA Karen, the self-appointed queen of the neighborhood. And what was her royal decree? She demanded my Wi-Fi password. I mean, can you even imagine? At first I thought it was a joke, but she wasn't laughing. And the worst part? She felt entitled to it, as though my personal internet connection was somehow her right. It wasn't a request. It was a demand. The audacity. I was stunned. I didn't know how to respond. But I knew one thing for sure. I wasn't going to let this slide, not for a second. What I did next? Well, let's just say it wasn't what she expected. But trust me, you're going to want to stay tuned for the real twist in this story. Spoiler alert, she did not get what she bargained for. In fact, I turned the tables in a way she could never have imagined. And that's where the real fun began. I live in a small suburban neighborhood, nothing too fancy, but we all keep to ourselves. Mostly. But there's this one lady. Oh, Karen. You know the type. Loud, opinionated, and convinced the world revolves around her. She was the HOA president, so she made sure to keep her nose in everyone's business. It started innocently enough, as these things tend to. She would knock on doors, making sure everyone was in compliance with the neighborhood rules. No too bright porch lights, no unkempt lawns, and for some odd reason, she had a rule about acceptable mailbox height. Yes, height. Ridiculous, I know. At first, I played nice. I didn't want to ruffle feathers. At least, not yet. But then came that day. I was in my living room watching a movie when I heard the knock. I opened the door, expecting a neighbor. But there she was, standing like a storm cloud on my doorstep. "I need your Wi-Fi password," she said. Straight face. Like it was no big deal. I blinked. Sure, I'd heard her wrong. Excuse me? She sighed, clearly impatient. "My kids need to do their homework, and our internet is down. I'm sure you can spare it." Spare it? I tried to keep my voice even. "Sorry, I don't share my Wi-Fi password." That's when the real drama started. She glared at me, crossing her arms. "You're being unreasonable. I'm the HOA president. I have the right to access these things if it's for the good of the community." I was taken aback. This was the first time she'd overstepped, and I had no intention of letting it slide. But before I could respond, she walked away, muttering something under her breath. That was just the beginning. I could feel it, the simmering tension. I was sure she wouldn't let this go, and I wasn't wrong. The next few days were surreal. I thought maybe it was an isolated incident. But nope. Karen had found her new target. Me. It wasn't long before I started getting official letters in the mail, each one more absurd than the last. First, it was a fine for having my trash cans a few inches too far from the curb. Then, a warning for my excessive lawn decorations. Apparently, my wind chimes were too loud for the neighborhood's delicate sensibilities. I knew what was happening. This wasn't about rules anymore. This was personal. Karen was retaliating, and I was her punching bag. Then came the threats. One evening, as I was walking to my car, I found a sticky note on my windshield. It read, "This is your last warning. Comply with HOA standards, or we'll escalate this." I couldn't help but laugh. It was like something out of a bad movie. I had a neighbor come over to ask about the note, and as we were chatting, Karen appeared, clutching her clipboard like a weapon. "I trust you're following the rules, right?" she asked, her tone dripping with condescension. I smiled. Of course, just keeping things in compliance. But inside, I was fuming. The tension was unbearable. I could feel the walls closing in, and it wasn't long before I realized I needed to do something. This wasn't going to end until I fought back, so I started thinking, and thinking. How could I take back control? How could I get my own brand of justice without being the one in the wrong? It hit me in a quiet moment one evening, an idea so simple it was almost poetic. I'd had enough of the fines, the threats, the constant surveillance of my every move. And that's when it came to me. Why not have a little fun at Karen's expense? Sure, it was petty. But what she didn't know was that I had access to one thing she didn't: the internet. So, I made my move. I logged into my router's settings and changed the name of my Wi-Fi network. No, it wasn't something subtle or clever like NotKaren's Wi-Fi. That would have been too obvious. I wanted to make a statement, so I named it NotForKaren911. It was bold, it was audacious, and it was exactly what she deserved. The next time Karen came knocking on my door, I could barely hold back my grin. She didn't waste any time. "I came to get the password," she said, her tone demanding as always. "Of course," I said, leaning casually against the doorframe. "I'll give it to you. But you might want to check the Wi-Fi name first." She squinted at me, confused, before she grabbed her phone and tried to connect. The look on her face when she saw it. Priceless. I didn't need to say anything. The message was clear. And that was just the beginning. The next few days were an absolute riot. Karen, of course, tried to play it off, but the damage was done. Word spread fast in the neighborhood. NotForKaren911 became the talk of the block, and Karen? She was furious. She tried to call me out publicly during an HOA meeting. "This is unacceptable. I demand a formal apology," she raged. The entire room was silent, waiting for my response. I stood up, calm as ever. "I'm sorry. Did you say something?" I was busy enjoying my internet, without sharing it. There was a collective gasp. Even some of the HOA members were smirking. Karen's face turned bright red. She sputtered, trying to regain control, but it was clear to everyone. The power had shifted. The next week, I received a letter from the HOA. It was an official reprimand for my lack of cooperation, but it came with a twist. I wasn't fined. In fact, the letter said they had reversed the previous fines due to miscommunication. It felt like a victory, a small, sweet victory. So, what's the takeaway here? Sometimes when people try to push you around, the best thing you can do is stand your ground, but with a little creativity and a touch of humor. You don't have to play by their rules. You can rewrite the game on your own terms. And if you're ever faced with a Karen, remember, a little cleverness can go a long way. If you've made it this far, drop a "justice served" in the comments below. I want to hear your stories. Have you ever had a run-in with an HOA or someone who thought they could get away with anything? And hey, if you're dealing with your own Karen, let me know how you handled it. Maybe you've got a better plan than mine, though I'm not sure there's any topping the Wi-Fi password stunt. Stay smart, stay creative, and always, always stand your ground.